Hello and welcome to the Bearded Hooker. This is Walter, and today we're going to talk about adding fringe to your product. So what I have here is just a piece of plastic that is 6 inches wide, and this is what I'm going to use to wrap my yarn around. So you just start, hold it, and wrap around, and you want to keep it relatively straight. So when you're figuring out how long you want your fringe, it's typically, say you want your fringe to be 5 inches long. So you would want a board or a piece of cardboard to wrap that is at least 6.5 to 7 inches wide. That way you have enough yarn to be able to fold your fringe in half and thread it through your piece with enough left over that you'll be able to trim it so it all is the same length and really has that nice professional look to it. So basically you just wrap it like this. And you don't want it to be too thick. So sometimes, like when you're making fringe, you'll go over it multiple times, but by adding thickness, you actually add length. And that could throw off your yarn, your fringe, you know, the measurement for your fringe. So you continue to do this. So here it is, almost full. Cut your end. Then you just need a very sharp pair of scissors. And you want to cut. And then you have your strands for your fringe. That I'm going to be adding fringe to. It's actually a shawl. We're going to start in the corner. So you take 3 pieces, or however many pieces you like. I'm going with 3. You fold the yarn over. And you want to stick your hook through, grip your yarn, pull it through, and then tie it. And you want to make sure you go through both the front and the back loops. And then if you see the end, of course it's black on black. So if you see the ends here, how they're not even, so then after you get the fringe all on, because it's a shawl, so it's going to be on both sides, then I'll lay it out and I'll use a guide so it stays the same length, and I'll lay the guide against the edge of the shawl, and so I'll know exactly where I want to cut the yarn so that the fringe is one length. And that's that. So that's every other, and I like that that gap in between the 2 knots that holds the fringe into place. I personally just like the way it looks better. Again, it's personal preference. You can go every stitch, and then possibly if you used maybe 2 strands or 1 strand per stitch, that you wouldn't have such a big knot, and it might not. It might look better or more pleasing to you. So that's essentially how you add fringe to the project that you're working on. So I will continue adding fringe to this and cutting yarn, and then use the form to trim, like your guide, so that your fringe is all the same length. So I will see you soon. Hi guys, so we're back. So after a few hours of measuring and adding the fringe to this, I'm now ready to trim it. So as you can see, the fringe is all different lengths, and you could leave it like that if you wanted to. I don't think it looks terrible. However, it doesn't look like a finished edge to it. It looks more professional if you go through and trim it so your fringe is all the same length. So what I'm using, again, is the same piece of plastic I used to measure the fringe. And I'm using this line here as a guide. So I'm going to line the edge of the plastic up with this teal line here, and then that way I'll be able to ensure that the fringe is all the same length. Then you just take your scissors and you follow along the edge, and you cut it how you do the fringe. And then I'm going to do that all through the length of the shawl. And then when it's finished, I'll show you a picture. If you like this pattern for the shawl, I will put that in the link of the description to post the final picture of the finished shawl. And talk to you soon.